Well, joining me now for more on startups and emerging markets is Michael Moe, co-founder of GSV Asset Management. He's also the author of the forthcoming Global Silicon Valley Handbook, the official entrepreneur's guide to the hottest startup scenes from around the globe. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks, Rachelle. Great to be with you.
Thank you. So, when it comes to these startup hubs in emerging markets, what are the real standouts for you?
Well, what's exciting to us is there's a number of markets that are really very fertile and showing robust activity. But places like Beijing and Shanghai are ranked 6th and 7th in our handbook. They had $30 billion of venture funding last year, and comparatively, that's about the same amount that's been Silicon Valley. So you're seeing these markets become very significant very fast. So places like Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore, obviously in India, places like Jakarta in Indonesia, Sao Paulo. We have this little ditty saying from Shanghai to Dubai to Mumbai, you're seeing this explosion of entrepreneurial activity in startups.
And certainly we're seeing people paying a lot of attention, as you mentioned, this step up in investment. So let's also look at some of the challenges. What are some of the unique challenges perhaps faced by emerging markets versus those developed markets?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is just the history of success. If you look at how Silicon Valley has developed, it was really the pioneers, the Fairchilds, the Intels, the Apples and so forth, that Hewlett-Packards that had success, and the people that were there went out and started their own startups, and they had that experience to kind of look back to. When you're talking about a number of emerging markets, you don't have that same history, and so you really have to invent a lot of this on your own and draw from other examples in other markets. And so, one of the things that we see with the global Silicon Valley is this connectivity of entrepreneurship that isn't so isolated to a specific market, but really drafts off a success in what's going on around the world.
Now, sometimes in emerging markets, we see that it's really about meeting a direct need and not necessarily creating the next shiny new gadget. So when you look at the challenges that they're facing in emerging markets, how do you see that perhaps helping or even hurting the likelihood of their success and their global expansion?
Well, first of all, I think from a funding standpoint, investors want to see an opportunity to be a global business. And one of the big changes, I think, just from entrepreneurs' standpoint, is it used to be you started a company really with a local focus, and if it was successful, maybe you went regional, then national, then ultimately very few would go international. Today, many entrepreneurs are starting with the mindset of global, and that's really where they're going after. That said, you do have specific needs in different markets. So you look at places like Africa, which basically skipped the whole PC world to go right to the smartphone and mobile, and then which led to mobile payments and huge opportunity there. You're seeing companies like Andela in Africa that have started basically the arbitrage between very smart people but a lot that haven't developed the skills, and being able to take that, train them, and provide that to global businesses. Healthcare, the digital doctor, education, being able to have access to the best knowledge in the world, wherever you happen to be. Those are all interesting opportunities that we see emerging. And frankly, from an opportunity standpoint, the classic investment opportunities where there's a problem, the bigger the problem, the greater the opportunity. And so a number of these markets, you see very big issues, but entrepreneurs that solve those problems and kind of crack that code, there's tremendous opportunity for them.
Now, Michael, let's also look at some examples of some initiatives, especially government initiatives, in order to really help some of these startups thrive. Where and how is it working the best?
Well, there's a number of places where it's working tremendously. And again, I think government recognizes that innovation and helping support entrepreneurship is vital for their economies. So whether you're talking about Startup India, it hasn't been perfect, but the entrepreneurial activity in India is breathtaking. China is supported with over $300 billion for startups. You got Spring in Singapore. You got Startup Chile in Helsinki in Finland, which is just amazing. You got this little country, pretty isolated. Some of the most exciting game companies and mobile technology in the world out of Helsinki. They have the Slush Conference, which is a must-go-to. 20,000 people go, and that's really supported by the government. So you're seeing a number of successful programs in Indonesia. They have the goal of having 1,000 startups by 2020. So I think the governments are playing a vital role of really providing support and some catalyst to really jumpstart this innovation and entrepreneurial activity.
Now, naturally, when people think of startups, they automatically think of Silicon Valley. So as we look at their biggest rivals, perhaps in emerging markets, what lessons could they learn from each other?
Well, and I think, again, I think what you've seen is a natural progression. And I'm based in the middle of Silicon Valley, our firm is. But we do believe this global Silicon Valley is a very important mega trend. And yes, you can learn, and you've seen initially what you saw go around the world is effectively these copycats. You had a successful business that happened from Silicon Valley, and then it was rapidly copied in China and India and South America and so forth. Increasingly, innovation is happening and being copied and brought back to Silicon Valley. And so you look at mobile technology, for example. Some of the most innovative things going on in the world are in China, because obviously the Chinese mobile usage is greater than any place in the world. So I think there's fundamentals that you see for entrepreneurship,
right?
And I think those are able to apply to markets everywhere. But the first fundamental is always having a team that is
Michael. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We'll have to leave it there. But thank you so much for joining us. Michael Moe, co-founder of GSV Asset Management.